Hello and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute privilege to be joined by the fabulous Ben Albert. Ben, welcome.
Kim, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
I'm excited too. I can't wait to get stuck into our conversation, which I know is going to be packed with insight. But before we do, let me just share with those people listening and watching a little bit more about you. So Ben is the owner of Balbert Marketing LLC. He's also the curator of the Real Business Connections Network, where he hosts 5 podcasts. I'm not all scared now that you've done this a lot more than me. Once an underdog and now a successful entrepreneur, Ben is passionate about helping other underdogs achieve their dream. And Ben is on a mission to actually move the needle on 1 million lives, one conversation at a time. I love that. I mean, what an amazing vision and passion to go and say, actually, I want to make a lasting difference. Because for me, I took from that moving the needle that actually it makes an impact that lasts, that affects change, that allows those people to go on and affect change in the lives that they also are connecting with. So Ben, tell me more about your journey so far and what's got you to this mission.
Yeah, I mean, a tiny little needle move will completely course correct the direction of someone's entire life, and you don't know who needs what, when. I don't even know what moved the needle most for me. Like when I was a kid, I was just lost. If I had a superpower, it would be invisibility, making himself small. It's hilarious because I wanted to be a basketball player. I had a jersey for every single day of the week. I wanted to be the next Michael Jordan. And I was skilled. However, I was the shortest boy in school, second shortest person behind a little girl, Olivia Lee. So I was never destined to be, and people even joke all the time, there's basketball players that are 5'3", 5'8", 5. Yeah, like 1 in a billion. So I never made it as a basketball player, and I was small, but again, I became an expert at making myself smaller. You know, you and I talked about this pre-conversation just in a chit chat. Like a lot of us play small. A lot of us have imposter syndrome. And I was the king of that. Like my entire life, I was basically hiding in the shadows, like not sure what my next move was going to be. Had nice enough parents that they would be like, go to school, get good grades. And I'm like, I'm going to school, but I don't know why. I'm getting good grades, but I don't have any vision. And I really just wanted to fit in, and I really just wanted to do something. And I tell all of this just to like preface that I feel like I developed a growth mindset at a young age without knowing what a growth mindset was. And it wasn't because I was God's gift to the world. It's because I wanted crazily to grow, literally physically, because I was small. But I had moments where we're sitting at the dinner table and I look up and I had just watched a YouTube video about like body language. I didn't even know that was a thing. YouTube had just like started coming out. And I noticed that everyone in our entire family, everyone at the dinner table was slouched.
Wow.
And I intuitively was like, I'm slouched. So I'm tiny and I'm slouching and making myself smaller. So I started picking up books. I started going to YouTube University, and literally in my teenage years started this personal growth, self-development thing that led me into the music industry, which was a passion of mine, which led me into promoting musicians because I just loved amplifying a good thing. Even when I was amplifying a good thing, I was hiding in the shadows, but I had the opportunity to take a musician and help them reach more people. And as I developed, as I grew, my love of music grew. I was promoting before I even knew what marketing was. Then I found a career in marketing because I was natural at it. Still, again, in the shadows, amplifying other people, making them look good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until in my recent years when I started a business podcast, when I started a business. I was doing these fun things on the side, but I was working for corporate. It wasn't until my recent years when I got let go during COVID, started a business podcast, started a business, that suddenly like I'm the star. I'm the one on the camera. I can't play small. And all those things would come to the surface like, I don't look good on camera. I don't know if I feel like it today. I don't know if I deserve success. All these thought leaders have written books, spoken at summits. I'm good at promoting them. So I'm currently on that journey of learning how to promote myself. I'm really good at taking care of other people, but promoting myself, promoting my podcast, and really like learning every single day, because the Ben today is doing all right. But the Ben 10 years from now might not even recognize the Ben today because of those tiny little steps that lead us to the right direction. I hope
Oh,
that was a
no,
lot.
no, it's amazing. I love it, and I'm smiling along because so much of it resonates.
Mm,
From the being able to do it for other people, but when you try and do it for yourself, it can become so much more challenging because we've got an awful voice in our head that very often is not being our best friend. It's not helping us. It's not driving us forward. So I think for me, they're the parts where we have to. You've got to keep looking for those tiny movements, and if you keep doing them, like I say to my little girl, our goal in life every day is to be a better version of us than we were yesterday. Not to be better than anybody else. Doesn't matter what's going on anywhere else as well. Our job is to be a better version of ourselves today, and if we can do that every day, in 5 years from now, we won't recognise who we are today. In 10 years from now, it will speak volumes. But actually, that's the only thing we can really focus on, because the only thing we can control is how do we become the best version of ourselves, and get comfortable to step into that light. And I think, I can't remember whose book it was, but they talked about the fact that it's not our darkness that scares us, it's our light. It's that we might actually be really good at something, and that feels a bit egotistical, and therefore we probably shouldn't go too near it. And so we pull back from that and try and fit in to what we think society wants of us. But I think that, and I'd be really interested in your view. I've suffered for years with that imposter syndrome, and I too was and still am a lifelong learner. I read anything I can get my hands on. I'm interested in body language. As soon as I learned about it, I even learned how to read micro expressions. So I think I went a little bit crazy. But that was all because what I didn't want was to be found out, for the fraud that I was or thought I was. So I had to cram even more information into my head that was like, but you're not fixing the issue, which is you don't believe in yourself and you're not willing to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Does that resonate?
It does. I mean, we're never going to be perfect. I think there is no end destination. It's a constant evolution. And even the concept, I agree with this mostly, but I'll poke a hole in it. The
Yeah, of course.
concept of being the best version of yourself. I love the concept of being the best me I can be.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
being said, there is no best me. That's perfectionism at its finest. That I might never be the best Ben I could be. I could always maybe be a little bit better, but sometimes it's just being good enough, like being a good enough version of yourself, not worrying about being the best. Because the best Ben is unrealistic because I make mistakes. Now, granted, I can look to constantly evolve and get better, but I'm hoping just to be a good enough version of myself every single day,
Yeah.
because I'm not confident that I'm crystal clear on my exact purpose in this life. However, I'm open to discovering that purpose over time and just doing a good enough, again, the best, but the best I can do each day, knowing that I might never be perfect, knowing that I might always be shy with the light and the spotlight in front of me. But even some of the biggest singers in the world, like a Taylor Swift, says she still gets the goosebumps when she's walking on stage. So I don't think the butterflies ever go away, but if we can teach them how to fly in formation, we'll be good to go.
Oh no, I love that. And I guess for me, when I say the best version of me, I've
Yeah.
come to accept that me comes with all those flaws. So I'm not meaning I'll get rid of those flaws, but I'm saying that I'm still gonna work to evolve, but I'm gonna recognize that the best me has its light and its dark, and that's okay. Because I never used to be able to say that was not okay. That was not okay. That's changing. You had to fix it. Now I go, hey, that's just where I am. I'm never going to be a very good singer. So I'm not going to even try. My little girl thinks I'm amazing. nobody else in the world ever needs to hear that. It's like, but it's those elements, isn't it, where we get to go, being the best me means you come flaws and all, and acknowledge those. But I love that in what you're doing, in that kind of helping underdogs. And, you know, I left school to be a hairdresser, and then ended up having to give up my business at 24 because I lost the feeling in my hands and legs and started again, and spent the next part of my career constantly feeling like I was behind and running to catch up. And that underdog element, even though I outwardly hugely successful. So how do you go from 0 to hero in under a year?
We all have our own zeros. I think that's an important, to me, 0 is a baseline. We don't have to be broke, unemployed. We don't have to be going through a divorce. We don't have to get let go. We don't have to have the IRS calling us because we can't pay our taxes to actually be at 0, even though I've been through most of those things for what it's worth. I've always identified with the underdog because I think a lot of grit comes from not having stuff handed to you. Not all of us are born with opportunity. I was born with a big, beautiful beard. That's about all I was born with that was benefit to me. But not all of us are born with a great deal of opportunity, and all of us go through these peaks and valleys. And if we feel like we're at a valley, or even worse, like we've just went downward and we're at an all-time low, it's really just you do this with your podcast. It's surrounding yourself with the right kind of people that have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish in a specific area of life. Because I don't know a single human being on earth. I have a lot of mentors, but I don't have a single human being on earth that checks the box on every category of my life. But different human beings check different boxes. I have a mentor for my personal growth. I have a mentor for my sales. I have a mentor for meditation and mindfulness. I have a podcasting mentor. And it's surrounding yourself with someone who's even just a few steps ahead of you, preferably more than just a few steps, but even just a couple steps ahead of you. Those are great when they're only a couple steps ahead of you, because you can peer to peer move to the top together. But it's surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, because I believe one of the biggest expenses we can have is running really fast for a really long time in the wrong direction, wrong mentor, wrong guru, wrong information, get rich quick scheme, and then we just suddenly have to turn around and come back. So if we're at a baseline, if we're at a bottom, we have to ask the question, who has what I want? Verify their legitimacy. Get a little irritating with the amount of research you do. They're not willing to jump on a call. If a team member can't jump on a call, if they don't post to YouTube, maybe you don't learn from them. But find someone you can relate to in a specific area of life and just do what they did. And the beauty about learning someone else's playbook is you can learn a lot of what got them there. But just how you mentioned being the best you, just how we talk about like everybody's unique. That's why we have a unique fingerprint. As we gain momentum and as we get better, we can start to audible and create our own plays and create our own masterpiece. But it's hard to create a masterpiece if you don't know where to start. So start with someone who knows something that you don't. Learn exactly what they do, create a template, and then learn how to add your secret sauce to that. And that'll get you from 0 to hero, really in any area of life. But the most important part you already touched on, it might take some time. It's chiseling. It's chiseling a little bit every day. But we often, and that's why I don't like get rich quick schemes, we overestimate what we can do in a day, a month, even a year. But we massively underestimate what we can accomplish in 3, 5, 10 years. So it might sound boring, but be the 10-year guy. Be the 10-year gal. And it might feel like, oh my God, 10 years. And it does feel that way. But 10 years down the road, you're going to be like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm way farther than I even thought was possible. And that's the beauty of it all.
Oh, I love that, because I remember many years ago running a theme with my team, which was engage the expert. So go and find the expert in that particular thing. because they're not going to be an expert in everything. So go and find the person that is the very, very, very best at starting a conversation at a networking event, or go and find the person who is absolutely hands down the best sales closer you're ever going to have, or the very best. This is learn from them what they did, and then eventually you can start to look at it and go, here's the bits I've learned and I'm going to carry forward with me, and here's the bits that aren't going to be for me. I'm going to change those slightly. I've tried them, I've run them, and now what I'm finding is actually I've got my own little bit, the way it goes, bringing myself, my personality to it. To your point, I'm going to change the place slightly. I'm not going to rip it up and start again, but I'm going to go, here's what I've learned from running that play, and now I can update it with my lived experience so that I know it's working for me, and we can move that. And I guess that got me into that whole piece around networking. It's one of the biggest banes, isn't it? You kind of like go into this room. I remember being sat outside of a networking event, and when I first went on my own, and I'd done hundreds of them over the years in the jobs that I did, and never had an issue because I had the job and the company to hide behind. But I was sat outside and I was sitting there going, I can't go in. And in the end, I had to pep talk myself and go, crying out loud, Kim, it's 20 people and it's half an hour of your life. Get over yourself and go through the door. But actually, lots of people that I meet are so worried about that being tongue-tied. And I know that you've got an amazing CAN system. Would you share that with us?
We could do 30 minutes on just this, but I'll simplify it for everyone. CAN, C-A-N, create and network, content and networking, collaboration and networking. The concept's simple. If you're tongue-tied, if you feel it's great for introvert, you feel like you're not the life of the party, you don't want to just go in and hand out a bunch of business cards, maybe you don't drink, you're like, I don't know how to network. We'll find ways to create content, collaborate, and network. The concept I call is being the center of their gravity. You want to attract people to you. You want people to want to work with you. You want people to raise their hand and say, hey, I want more time with Kim. I want more time with Ben. You got to be the center of their gravity. And how do you do it? It's by creating really cool stuff while you network. So when, for example, if I go into a networking event, I have a business podcast. I have a mastermind called Grow Getters Only. It's for established growth mindset entrepreneurs. I'm gonna go into that networking event looking for podcast guests, looking for people that could be a guest in my community, looking for people that can speak in my community. I also do graphic design. So if I really like someone, I can take their quotes and turn them into graphics. A good friend of mine is a photographer. So if they need photos done, I know a person for that. So I don't go in with a bunch of business cards pitching myself. I go in with a few options and I try to find people that I can create content and network with. So we're not talking about just what we do. We talk about, hey, I have a podcast. I love your thought leadership. I know you have a book coming out. Would you possibly like to be a guest on my show? And then we can nerd out about the value of podcasting, the value of writing a book. And then before you know it, we're friends. And then we can go create something together. What happens when you create something together? You both share it. You get the growth, the minimum 2x growth of sharing audiences with one another. You tag each other. This came from Ben being a quiet dude who didn't want to talk about himself and didn't want to be braggadocious. And I found the best way to be braggadocious is just to brag about how cool the people in your network are, brag about how much success your clients are getting. So when I would create content, whether it's a podcast episode, a social media post, an event, a networking event, any of these things, a charity event, I'd find co-collaborators. I'd spend all my time praising them. Their audience would come to me by the like-minded approach that I'm friends with someone that they see as a mentor. And then I was the beneficiary of their audience. Simultaneously, everything was role reversed. Since I'm advocating for them, they're looking good, feeling good, and they don't have to feel like they have to be braggadocious because I'm bragging about them for them. So to simplify it, create content, collaborate, and network. Is it an event? Is it a podcast? Is it a blog? Is it a charity outing? Find people that are similar, and then you can create gravity around you that people want to work with you. Audiences come to you, and you don't really feel like you're marketing or selling at all because you're just doing stuff you love with the people you love for the audience you love while you network.
Yeah.
I don't
I
even have an elevator pitch. I just go in and try to meet people that might be good for my tribe.
I love that, because I think, my way always in networking has been to find out as much as I possibly can about people, because I have got a great network, and therefore I can probably find people that can help them and can connect them up, and can and can help them move forward. I remember that same networking event that I talked myself into going to. I got in there and ended up meeting a guy who, it was about an hour away from where we lived, but I ended up meeting a guy who lives in the same town as I do. And when we got chatting, he was telling me about his 11-year-old daughter who'd just gone into remission for a particular type of leg cancer. And I said, I don't know if it would be useful, but I happen to know Mark Woods, the Paralympian who lost his leg to the same cancer at 17. Would it be useful if I connected you up so they could have a conversation about kind of, how he overcame that and what? And he was like, you'd do that? And I was like, probably the reason why I'm here at a networking event in an industrial estate in Sleaford. The universe puts us where the universe puts us because we're supposed to help and connect and find that way to collaborate and to make, my big measure of success every day is, did I leave things better than I found them? Did I do something positive today for somebody else? Because if you put that out into the world, that's what you get back, isn't it? Put good out, you get good back. And I think I love that actually that's what you're doing, is constantly looking for where are the opportunities to co-create, and therefore everybody grows, everybody wins. And it is always much easier to be braggacious about somebody else than it is about yourself, because it feels a bit cringy when you do it for you, but when somebody does it for you, then you want to repay the favor, don't you? So do you find therefore lots of people start doing that for you because you've actually not as in, oh, you did that and so I must do it, but as in oh, you made me feel great and look great, and you made me you made me get all of this attention, and I want to share with the world everything that you did to help me get there, and therefore collectively you become stronger and you create that true connection and true community, don't you?
I jokingly call it a free trial. And what I mean by free trial is they didn't spend any money on me. They aren't my client, but they know what it would feel like if they were. So as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur, as a business professional, I want to give people a gold star, platinum, the best quality experience, whether or not they're a client. Like you just said, allowing people to be better when you leave them,
yeah,
whether or not they're spending money with me, whether or not they're a referral partner or a client or anything like that, just like doing the best to give people a good experience. Because what happens is, because they naturally become an advocate for you.
yeah,
They know even if they're never going to spend money with you, they understand what it would feel like to do so. And they'll make recommendations. They'll share your posts. They'll comment on your things, all because you basically gave them a free trial and here's another thing. This is very nuanced and we don't have time to go into every little detail, but you have to give a good experience. You
yeah,
can't be a jerk. You can't be selfish. You have to care. You have to try to leave people better than you found them. And if you're already doing it, it's just showing up and asking for help and being like, I need X, Y, and Z. Will you come on my podcast? Will you be on my blog? Will you speak at my event? It's just asking. You're already a good person. If you're a bad person who's selfish and isn't in it to help people, we can't help you on this podcast. But the assumption, I mean, we can, but we can't solve that right now. The assumption is the person's already heart-centered. They're a good person. They give a good experience. A lot of people ask me questions like, Ben, how do you find such good guests for your podcast? Or how do you get these keynote speakers to speak at your event for free? It's actually not that complicated. I'll go to a conference, I'll see 20 speakers, I'll pick 10, I'll reach out to 8 of them, and 5 of them will say yes. And they'll speak to hundreds, oftentimes thousands of people, and only get a few people reaching out. So I'm willing to reach out, ask for help. I have an audience, and I pull out my hand and I say, walk with me. I want to promote and introduce you. I know you can inspire my audience. And through content and networking, we can build empires together. But I can fix jerk in this conversation. The key is to really just leave people better than you found them, is exactly what your mission is to do.
Oh, absolutely. I remember back when I was a hairdresser, and I believe this was my greatest leadership lesson, but they taught you to listen to understand what the person really wants, to help them to try and achieve it, and to have them leave you feeling like the best version of themselves. And I was like, well, that's just good life lessons. If I can try and do that in every interaction, with every person that I lead, or with every client that I work with, or with every friend that I have, then that's pretty good, isn't it? And I'm not worried what I get back from it. It's like, actually, I just get to, look in the mirror at the end of the day when I take my makeup off and not look away in disgust. It's like I can go, I'm actually an all right person. I'm a good human being. And sometimes that's where we've got to get to, isn't it? Is that piece is going, where do we bring it back? Ben, I could literally chat to you all day, and I'm so conscious that we've only scratched the surface of all that you could share with the audience, but I'm also very conscious of time, and I appreciate you've got somewhere else you need to be as well. So before we go, if I could ask you, if you had to go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I'm always choked up with this question because I've watched enough sci-fi that I'm curious, if I gave advice, would I change the whole course and then I would come out a whole different Ben? Like, who the heck knows? And I also am curious, would Ben even listen? He might think, wow, that guy's a brat trying to give me advice. I don't even know if he would take it. But this isn't advice. It's more an energy you create. I didn't feel like I was enough back in the day. And I've realized that I am enough. So just telling yourself you are enough, you're good enough now, and you're only getting better. And it's sometimes not in the words, it's just creating a space that if I could go back to my previous self and I was in a bad place, everyone was picking on me, I felt small, it would just be like, listen, you're not small, you're enough. Look at all this cool stuff you've already accomplished. What are you excited about? So I don't know if I'd give myself advice, but I definitely would give myself a pep talk, because
Yeah.
I think every day people should be reminded that you are enough. You are enough now.
Oh, I love that. And it definitely resonates. And one of the things a good friend of mine shared many years ago was getting yourself a big me up book, so that every day when you touch somebody, as in you do something and they go, oh my God, that was amazing, that really helped, you write it in the book. So when you have those moments where you're telling yourself you're not enough, you can get the book out and flick through and go, okay, I'm enough. I'm enough. I've done these awesome things. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we go, can you share with the audience how they can get in touch with you and who you help?
Yeah. So first off, I wouldn't be here without our lovely host. So the best way to get in touch with me, there's the LinkedIn, there's all these things. That's all in the show notes. But go click subscribe to this. Click 5 stars if it's an option on your podcast platform. I've got a show called Real Business Connections. You can just type it in wherever you found this, or for whatever reason you get a hiccup, just Google Real Business Connections. But love on this show first. You can find me. Just Google Real Business Connections. But your barrier to entry is to show love for, I wouldn't be here without Kim. And I just want to be mindful of that.
Bless you, Ben. Thank you so very much. And as you say, all of the information of how to get in touch with you is in the show notes below. I'd like to thank you for coming on and being such an honest, authentic, and inspiring guest, and for sharing such invaluable insight with the audience and with myself. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I hope for everybody watching and listening that you found this as insightful and inspiring as I have. And until next time, take care.